Your basic demographic information, including your name and email address, and usually a little more like a job title and possibly even an office location, are included in your profile. This information is usually brought in from other systems like Microsoft Exchange, which is your email account, or even ported over from prior systems if SharePoint is part of a larger migration, say from Lotus Notes. Regardless of what is included originally, you will always want to go into your profile and make sure that what is there is accurate and add what has been left out or what is incorrect. After all, this is the easiest way for your colleagues to find and contact you, especially in large multi-location companies. When used well, the profiles are far more than just an electronic Rolodex. Of course, you can look someone up by their name. But more importantly, you can also find those in your organization who are subject matter experts, who have specific skills that you may need, or maybe worked on a particular project or with a specific customer in the past. Profiles also allow you to get to know your coworkers better. That may include a photo and even their hobbies or interests that might not just come up in casual conversations. In order to edit your profile, which is also called your name card, you need to access your mysite. This can be done by moving to the top right edge of the screen and displaying the drop-down for your name menu. Everybody has one, and the first option will always be About Me. You could also search for yourself. When you click About Me, it brings up your profile to the About Me page. It should say About and then your name, in this case, About Michael Brooks. Just below that title, you should see a link that says Edit Your Profile, and we want to give that a click or a tap. I tend to be a very visual person, so one of the first things that I always like to do is to make sure that I have an image as part of my profile. On the upper left-hand side of your profile, you should see a fairly generic little head and shoulders picture, and we can click where it says Change Your Photo in order to do just that. Naturally, you'll need to have a good quality professional headshot that you want everybody to see. Remember, this is what everyone who uses your profile is going to see for your picture. So please make sure it's appropriate. It's simply a matter of browsing for the file. You can go ahead and click on Browse and navigate to that location. For our purposes, we have our Working Files folder sitting right on the desktop. There's a picture in here that you can use if you don't have one to use for yourself. We'll just scroll down, open up the Working Files, go into the Chapter 2 folder, and you'll see a picture there for Michael Brooks. Simply give it a double click. Give it a few seconds to load, and when the picture appears, if it's okay with you, go ahead and click or tap Save on the bottom of the window. Don't worry if it takes a few seconds for the picture to actually display. It could take a few minutes, but eventually your beautiful picture should show up, so now people can put a face along with your name and all of the other details that they're seeing as part of your profile. As I said, that's usually the first thing that I like to do, but now we need to get into the detailed information. Your information is actually broken down into several categories. We can see headings for these categories along the top of the page. They include basic information, contact information, details, and then there's a little ellipsis that you can click that shows you can also work with newsfeed settings, language, and region. Let's go ahead and start with a little more of the mundane first, and that would be language and region. We'll give that a click or a tap. This is something that you probably won't need to change very often, but you should go in and take a look at it at least the first time you start using your profile. Most of these should already be set appropriately by your IT department based on the rest of your computer settings. For example, my computer is set for English United States. Therefore, SharePoint and my profile is set that way as well. You can, however, pick more than one language to use as your display. And there are even advanced language settings. If we scroll down just a little bit, though, we'll see a couple of things that I think are important to take a look at, especially if you work in a company where maybe IT is centrally administered in one place, but you reside or work in another place. For example, the default is to always use regional settings defined by your site administrators. Well, that's great if everybody's in the same place, but in large multinational or multi-location organizations, that's not always true, and that means things like your time zone can be wrong. So you might want to come in and choose Always Use My Personal Settings. Then you can select things like a time zone that are absolutely correct for your specific work location. For example, Michael doesn't work in the Pacific time zone, Michael works in Mountain Time. So with that simple change, it'll make a 1-hour difference in how everything is time-stamped when he's working with SharePoint. and having an accurate date and time is always a good idea when you're working. That's one of the reasons I specifically like to talk about this seemingly mundane setting about language and region, because the time zone can be really critical. The other categories are things that you can actually go through on your own. We're not going to go through all of them. If you take a look at basic information, it's pretty much what you would expect, though. Your name, your work phone, your department, your title. You can put in some information about me. You also can have things called Ask Me About. You could put in topics that you can help people with or something you're a subject matter expert on. This can all be very useful. For example, if Michael is an expert on training, then maybe he'll put training in as a keyword. By the way, some people get a little uncomfortable about some of the information. For example, work phones, departments, maybe you don't want to share that with everyone. Let me draw your attention to the right-hand side of the screen. There's this column called Who Can See This? And by default, it says Everyone, but we can change some of those settings. For example, let's go into the Contact Information category. Here you have an opportunity to put in your mobile phone number. We'll go ahead and type one in. SharePoint does a good job of giving us some information. For example, that the mobile phone number will be shown on your profile and will be used when SharePoint needs to send text messages, which it has a capability of doing. You'll also notice that you cannot change who can see this. However, you could change your fax number or your home phone number. So if your home phone number was something you wanted to keep private, you would simply move to the right-hand side and change it from everyone to only me. Those are the only two options. It's either publicly available, publicly meaning anyone who can access SharePoint, or only to yourself, which means it's private. So by moving through the different categories of information, basic information, contact information, details, and I do like to pause for just a moment on details because this is where some of the very useful, searchable information comes in your profile. What are past projects that you've worked on? What specific skills do you have? Even what schools did you attend? Or what's your birthday? Do notice that birthday is only asking for the month and the day, but not the year for privacy purposes. You also can put in your interests. These are the types of things that bring SharePoint from just the plain old business information to really useful information that can be both of a business and even a personal nature, but can help you identify people that you work with who may have the skills or interests that you're interested in. And don't forget that all of these field values become searchable, which expands the capabilities of SharePoint to help you find the people you need in your organization. Well, when you get through all of this information, and I do recommend that you take a little bit of time to go through it all, filling in all of the things that are appropriate, you want to come to the bottom right-hand side of the screen and click or tap where it says Save All and Close. A nice little message does come up that says your changes have been saved, but they may take some time to take effect. Remember, SharePoint can be a very complex system, and sometimes these changes have to be saved across multiple servers in multiple locations. But it also says don't worry if you don't see them right away. So we'll click or tap OK, and know that all of our profile information is now updated and will be able to be found and researched by our colleagues. What you now know is if you have a SharePoint account, then you also have a profile. How much information it has is going to depend on how your organization actually set it up. Early on, you should edit your profile. You should add your picture. You should set your correct language and time zone. You should change any incorrect information, and you should add missing information. I think it's also a good idea that you designate information that you want available to everyone, or make sure that if you have private information, like your home phone number, that is marked just for yourself. Be sure to revisit your profile occasionally, or as things change, to be sure that all of your interests, projects, skills, and contact information are up to date. It's really an invaluable resource and a huge part of SharePoint that often goes underutilized.